That's it.
Right.
We're
We're
live. We're
live.
starting this whatever it is. Uh,
Well, welcome to my storage space. This is where I storage myself.
it's a special recording place for you, and I like it. It almost looks. It seriously looks like it's a fake background that you put. It doesn't really look like you're there. It's so
Really,
yeah.
it's so
It's
ghetto that it looks fake,
pretty
right?
much. I was
So
like, that doesn't look like a real place. You know?
luggages and
Yeah,
boxes and things, and hey,
that's not
this
a real
is
place.
hey,
It's
it's what you gotta do, man. In this economy, you gotta store yourself somewhere.
yeah.
So
You gotta package yourself neatly. Comes with the territory.
there we go.
Um, yeah, so this is nobody knows what this is. We don't know what this is.
Well, no idea, man. You
Yeah,
call me.
yeah.
You
This,
called
this is
me. You
yeah.
know?
Sorry that
It's like,
yeah, but
sup, yo, what the hell is
what's
going
up?
on?
Yeah, it's literally just this. What's up? And you're like, no,
Yeah, what's up?
what's up? And I'm like, yeah, what's up? And that's it. That's the whole podcast.
That's it. That's
That's
all.
the only thing we
There
do.
you go.
There's nothing
That's all we're
else.
doing.
Is this so? What's up? No, you called me. What's up?
Yeah, what's up, yo?
Um, yeah, we're literally gonna figure out what it is or create what it is on the go. Because uh, right, as I was talking kind of about how this idea was born, what I noticed about our conversations is that they are kind of like a meditation,
Mm,
because it's very flowing, it's very continuous, and we can, when we hang out, we can talk for hours nonstop, and it's just
yeah.
happening, and you don't notice that the time passes, right? And these are all the good criteria for having a good time. And also, I was reflecting on that, and I thought that we are able to have these good, deep, and continuous conversations because I think both of us are good listeners. You know, it's because we never really interrupt each other. We both kind of naturally feel when the other person is talking, the other person is listening. And I noticed it on the contrast with other people. Like for me, it's so difficult to talk if people like interrupt me because it just I'm not able to. Some of my thoughts are so long and so thick that I can't like I need space,
Yeah.
So I think it really works well. Like, you can't have these conversations with the people who are not able to listen. Because this way, both our minds kind of have this weave, this dialogue or story, really. Um, and I feel that kind of the power of that. That's why I like it so much because it's.
Yeah.
I even noticed like whenever because we haven't talked much lately, and I noticed like wow, I really need my friend to like
Yeah.
bounce off a few of these ideas because I'm not able to think them as well when I talk to you. Like I noticed that because um, first of all, explaining stuff to others is like incredible for your own understanding. They say if you want to understand or learn something, teach that to others
Yeah.
because that what makes you put it into like coherent words and stories and sentences. So I find that very helpful. But also, I realized that whenever I talk to you, I can be talking about the most abstract, some spiritual stuff that nobody heard about that you would need to read books about. And you would always kind of understand what I'm talking about. You would get the concept right away. Like the part that I want to talk about, you understand it. Like it's always, and we talk about it or you ask questions, but I find it always so helpful because it's otherwise it's too static of a viewpoint. Like it's something that I'm seeing from one perspective, but then if I'm able to discuss it with you, it's usually really helpful because I'm getting more. It's just more information flowing. I think that's what it feels like.
I mean, all communications are, exchanges, right? Because without that,
Right.
just as there is, in physics, there's the theory of relativity, right? The idea that everything is relative, de
Mm.
depending on where you are, and the time and space. So in that sense, you can't define anything without some other part, right? Point
Right.
A, point B, because otherwise, just as we say about thoughts, like if you just think thoughts in your own head, you're like, well, that's only in your own brain, but then how good or how bad of an idea, you have no idea, right? You don't know
Yeah.
whether that's a good thought or a bad thought. Or if you try to understand something, if you don't have this kind of consensus, like if you don't reach out to find the consensus out there in terms of, okay, is this a legitimate thing or is
Pretty
it
much
not?
like refine your
Then
thoughts.
this is how people, in some ways, people go crazy is because all they have is their own thoughts and they couldn't process it just by themselves because they have
Mm.
no other reference points to figure out, okay, am I crazy or am I not? Right? Or in
That's
this,
true. It's always like we need some form of validation from somewhere else. Um, that's something I've been noticing as well as I've been trying to write a bit more recently, mostly just for like blogging purposes and then some articles on the spiritual topics. But it made me
Mhm.
realize how both writing the thoughts down and getting them out there is a process that I'm like kind of craving because otherwise, yeah, these are just some dead thoughts and ideas in the vacuum of your mind that are not doing anything for anybody. It feels like it needs to both flow and bounce off of others to be kind of refined, right? To get the signal like, does this make sense? Am I not seeing things correctly? Am I just talking gibberish? And a lot of people do, dude. Some like I read some stuff online from some people on forums and stuff, and some people are out there, like they are like it's most of us really probably, but
Yeah.
some things are more far out than others. Like some people are saying stuff that like, what are you talking about? Like, do you not understand that this is nonsense?
So you see, that's the interesting point that I realize these days is that the in some ways we are entitled to our own thoughts, and there is definitely unique
Oh yeah, you can
kind
think
of
anything you want.
value. There's definitely value in individual thoughts, right?
Hmm.
Because I think as everything is pretty much a spectrum, right? From this side to this side, you have all these ranges. And in terms of individual thoughts, yes, if you don't correlate that with a larger consensus, then you could just be crazy. Okay, you can have some weird whatever thoughts, and you could be just crazy because that's not. First of all, that maybe that thought is both not actionable and also just does not make any sense, right?
Yeah, it's
So
literally exists as a form of delusion, schizophrenia. Those people are completely convinced that's like this. I discovered new math, the new math system,
right,
and it's in their head. It makes some kind of sense, but if they try to explain it to anybody, it's just zero sense. It's just kind of connection. There's no connection between bits of information. It's just all
yeah.
randomness.
So in terms of not just human thoughts, but like almost in everything, there's a range, and then there is also we need to find that the best range, right? The most not just practical, but also the most beneficial because on either side of it, you have crazies or you have just information that are not they're so out of the norm. There's the bell curve, right? The idea of the
Hmm.
bell curve is like all the common occurrences are going to be in the higher, on the bell
Yeah.
side, and then the two sides or the both extremes. So not just, I mean, if when you talk about life in general, like, we live in this kind of Goldilocks zone of parameters, right? We require a certain temperature range. We require certain, I don't know, like a certain amount of people. Like, what's the name of that? Like, you can only communicate with 150
Oh
people
yeah.
in your whole life.
Dunbar's number or something like that.
I think something like that. Yeah. So, there's all this range that you have to find, okay, what's that best for your situation. But the other point I want to come back to is that there is value in individual thoughts because you have something unique to offer, but it has to be predicated on if that you do have to have peer review in a way, right? That
Yeah.
other people need to be able to say, oh, this is some unique idea. I like this. We need to celebrate the fact that it's unique. If some thing to make other people think, and you do have that, you do need the response from another party for it to validate it. Otherwise, it's just, sure, it's unique, but it does not make any sense because nobody else can cogitate what does that even mean, right? So it's like, just like there are so many books in the library, like we have this collective knowledge and thought that humans have come around with, right? And then constantly we are renewing and reviewing all this information, whether that's just stuff you read on nonfiction or even in fictions. Like, like a lot of people write fictional books, but like you can say that there is no originality anymore because all the most original thoughts had already been thought over. But we are still creative. Like you can still see so many writers creating work, so many people creating creative projects that are just unique, right?
Yeah,
Because
it's still happening.
it combines a unique view. So just as you have problem on one end if you silence individual views and just go purely by mass kind of like consumption or what's accepted by the people, quote unquote, then you have no individual thoughts. Everything is almost like people are droning on and on about the same thing, right? That's like acceptable.
Yeah.
That's not the way to go. But if you go on the other side, if you go pure extreme, if everybody thought is legit, that's not how it works because some thoughts are better than others. Some, knowledge are not just more useful, but they are more beneficial than others. So
Yeah,
I'm
it can be more valuable or more practical or more uh, uh, profound. What that made me think about is that how, like, all of us, we still, nobody starts as, I mean, everybody starts as a blank slate in terms of the content and knowledge of this world, right? As you grow up, you pick information up, but you literally do that from outside world. You learn what others figured out and recorded and taught to you.
yeah,
So in this sense, everybody derives their, you know, all this content and context from before them. So we all
yeah,
inherited, but then like who I think there's a saying that I heard that no genius knows how they do it, right? How they do something well.
yeah,
And that's still the part that kind of, I guess nobody really figured out. Nobody really knows when and where the genius ideas come from. Like how these people wrote incredible books, made incredible art because the core of it is an idea. But even scientists kind of admitted throughout history that, oh yeah, it just came in a dream. What? So what?
yeah.
How? Why don't I get $1 million ideas in my dreams? What's what's the secret? There's still nobody's told the secret.
I just
How do you
think
do it?
that I think a lot of times we are definitely mired by this idea of, we constantly look out into the world and then we kind of compare ourselves against other people, right? And that creates its own kind of narrative in your head. Be like, oh, I'm falling behind. Oh, I'm not better than that guy, or I'm this, that, right? And it's just, we just tend to create these kind of pressure for ourselves, which is both unhealthy and also like is completely wrong because the fact is every single individual is unique, right? Both in their, I mean, I have actually found online there are some people who look almost exactly like me. And it's
I
crazy when I see that.
know,
It's like,
right?
what the hell? But that individual is still not me. They're still
Right.
very different than myself. So it means that, every single person, every single organism is different, right? They're not the same. So you have the capacity and the potential to create something completely new, you know, or
Yeah,
completely
it's still
never been
unique.
seen. It's unique. So, but that is the most important part is to embrace yourself, that you can create certain things. You should not be comparing yourself to other people because the metric is different. I think a lot of
Mm.
people use these kind of crude and rudimentary metric like money. Like that's the most basic thing. Like people, oh, how much money you make? Like, basically people with the money, they get status, they get power, they get whatever, right? And that's the
Yeah.
most thing that people recognize because it's the most easily recognizable, right? When
Mm.
a cave animal will recognize, oh, who has the power? Who has the power to kill has more power, right?
Yeah.
It's like basically we just evolve from animals to the point of we realize, oh, okay, there are these things that we can create that if you have more of in this sense, money, you can make people do things. And so it's the learning process. And then people, oh yeah, I want power, I want this, and then that's history. And you see it all over the world, individual countries, their history is all about that. Is some individual decided they want to go for the number one position, right? And
Yeah.
then they work their way, however that happens, then they make their way to that. But if you actually think about, because I think the problem is a lot of people don't think about exactly what do they actually are doing in their day to day, because we all get drawn into this, or okay, I have a job, I have this work, I'll do this and that. Over time, though, like you lose a sense of self-reflection, right? What's your value? What's more important to you? Because the thing is, none of this is dictated to you,
Mm.
except maybe people around you, your family, or you have family values or stuff that you learn from your own childhood of what your parents are like, what they taught you, what school taught you, so yeah, there's a lot of baggage. We certainly have a lot of baggage when we're young because we don't know anything, right?
Yeah.
But the fact is
It's
nobody knows anything. Your parents don't know anything other than
some
what
people
they have
know more
learned
than
from
others for
before.
sure.
So yes,
uh,
there are definitely, like we're saying, there are better information, there are worse information, bad informations. So if you have more good information being passed down, then yes, that group of people will most likely be more successful
yeah,
comparatively
they would
to
have like a
people who
more
don't have that
fertile ground
information.
for ideas.
Yeah. So I mean, we have seen not just online or also in everyday life. There's so many. I'm sorry to say, but you can even call it like these are dumb people. The stuff that they do is not to try to disparaging for no reason, but the stuff that they do is actually does not make any sense,
Mm.
right? But that's the result of that reality, right? Some people can't. I don't know. I don't know why that is. I'm not saying I'm the smartest guy. No, I'm pretty dumb in a lot of ways, But I just think that there's such a range,
Oh,
and
it's a
that's the
spectrum.
kind of
Yeah,
and
wide
that's
spectrum.
humanity. That's humanity we're dealing with. We have extremely smart people, and we have extreme dumb people, and everything in between. Also, there is no one criteria because look, you can't use IQ to decide, oh, who's smart, who's dumb, because each person has their own special kind of way of looking at the
Oh
world.
yeah, there are
And
many different IQs. There's like musical IQ. There's I think 12. I think officially recognized.
right,
So everybody can excel at all these different things. Um, I was kind of thinking about the other day, like what would be my strength and what would be my top IQ.
mm,
It's got to be somewhere connected with my MBTI type, but it's connected to the visual, to the physical, and to the logical. I think I'm best there. So it's something concrete, something that uh, is makes sense, is kind of structured. I am best there, like best in terms of my own abilities, because there, for example, if you take something like intuition, I know people who are so very good with intuition that to me it just seems like magic
yeah,
because like I don't even know what's happening. But on the flip side, their logic and ability to deal with sensory physical world is so non-existent that I'm looking at them like they're handicapped, you know?
Right.
And it's such an interesting contrast because like, yeah, we all have that kind of strong side and something that we're not just not good at. Just don't have it
Yeah.
at all. Like you don't have it. You won't
Yeah.
even be able to develop it to
Exactly.
that point, you know?
It's
It's
there's
so interesting that we'll have that balance.
so many times I feel like that at certain aspect of life. I'm like, I'm so gimped at that department. I'm like, I'm not even trying because I
Just not
couldn't,
gonna, yeah,
you
not
know,
even
it's just
gonna
not gonna
attempt it.
work. So this is why, like I was saying, I guess the idea that I'm circling in my head is that is the world is complex, right? You cannot
Hmm.
define sort of a person by just like one thing that they do, you know? So I suppose when I said, oh, there's some people who are not very smart, even with that statement is kind of not correct because they definitely do. That person, maybe in that act, they may feel you might feel that they're doing something dumb, but that person can be brilliant too at certain other
That's true.
things,
Yeah.
right? Which is better than you. So
Yeah.
they could call you a dumbass at that, you know, whatever that is. So,
Yeah.
but the problem I think with human mind is that we cannot comprehend all of that in terms of like one
Yeah.
given concept.
I think I've been struggling with just that the complex complexity of the world throughout just my, spiritual attempts and spiritual way because I think that's where it stems from is that my mind constantly is trying to grasp the whole thing because there's
Right.
definitely more than it's able to grasp, but it
Mm,
just can't accept that it's like, what do you mean? I got to be able to grasp it, right? That
mm.
there's stuff out there and you can't just not know stuff.
But you
What if
can't have
it's
it.
dangerous and what if it's gonna, gonna kill you and stuff? You got to be able to figure it out. I think that, just the general awareness of an unknown, it affects all people, by default, maybe in the background, some maybe less aware of it than others, but I think it's such a big thing. Just how complex this things is, how many moving parts, how many things are happening in the world at the same time right now.
Yeah.
The planet, we are now all connected through internet and online and news, and we all know that things are constantly happening somewhere. It's just so overwhelming.
Yeah, which is kind of the kind of the curse and also the
Yeah.
gift of modernity because I think I mean compared to people even just 100 years ago is so different the way that people live their life because of just with technology, that when they didn't have all this, life was very simple. Well, life was very different, you
Oh
know.
yeah.
But now it's like with this new technology, such as the internet and all AI, even now with AI, it's just I don't think we're having a hard time keeping up, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, for one thing, AI knows more than you in terms of the sheer data that they have, right?
Yeah.
So in terms of certain operational sort of thing that requires knowledge and everything, but the AI are doing better than we can do it. So now we're in this crossroad, right? Other people are trying to figure out, okay, where do we go now? You have so many people in different camps, those who embrace AI, for example, and those who, hate it because they're afraid because this is an unknown right now, right? Whether or not what will happen with the advancement of AI, I mean, it's already happening now. Certain
Yeah.
things are being replaced, and a lot of people are losing their jobs, right? Like because
A
somehow
lot.
they found, better ways to do this with AI or, all the new technologies. So I think, and see, this is the part, in ancient myth, you have this idea that creation also has destruction within it. So
Mm.
when it comes down to, it's not just purely a positive force. It has a negative aspect as well. right? But the thing is, it's almost just a saying, right? You can't create an omelet without breaking a few eggs. So,
Yeah.
you know, in the same manner, these new things will bring a lot of creative and new ideas and new paradigms, but there's also some other stuff that just has to go. And the problem is
Yeah,
humans don't
exactly.
like change. Humans don't like change. We don't want change. We just want to stay the same, but it doesn't happen. You know, it's
Yeah, it's
and I
always
think
been like this with any technology, right? There's been people who were against cars being introduced because their whole
exactly.
business and life was about horses and carriages and
Yeah,
something like over a few years that whole industry was gone. Just when cars
exactly.
appeared,
It
it
was
was
so
gone because it was
fast.
not needed at all.
Yeah,
Like, what do you want to do this for? We have cars now. And yeah, that's, I think you're right. It's going to be exactly like that with AI. It's just technology has always been here to stay. We've never had a technology where like, oh yeah, let's not do that. Let's not have cell
yeah.
phones. Let's not have computers. No, this is too much. We've never done this. It's always been like more, faster, better,
And
wireless.
see, yeah, exactly. I mean, things are just think about, for example, what the conversation that we have here, right? Without the technology to record it, either it was just between you and me in the actual same space, right? We cannot
Would have to
do.
be, yeah.
I'm here in Vancouver, you're in Toronto. Like
Yeah.
4,000 kilometer distance that we can talk at
It's
the same
limitation.
time,
Yeah.
you know? So
This is pure
now
magic. Like this is
they,
unreal.
yeah, it is unreal, right? So when you have that, the human mind sometimes like they can see opportunities, but there are also times when these things do kind of change your life in such a way that you don't know what to do with it. I just, given the fact that right now, for example, I mean, a lot of people are not a lot, you can even say most people are chronically online,
Yeah.
myself included. It's like
Everybody.
anytime I'm not working, I'm just in front of a computer, you know?
Less so
So
probably older generations, like
older, less,
if
yeah, but
they're
especially
less used
now
to
with
it.
Gen Z and like
Oh yeah,
even
no,
younger folks, they're
they were
born with it,
raised by internet.
you know?
Uh,
So
but for myself, I was trying to like also thinking about it and try to justify it. And the simple fact is that anything I want to do with anything is on the computer
it is
and
on
online
computer.
at this
Yeah.
point. Like, and my stuff is so integrated into the online tools, the amount of online profiles and online um, kind of spaces and communities I occupy and things I produce. It's all online. If I
Yeah.
want to play and record music, that's how you do it. So to me, it's incomprehensible how like what are you gonna do? I mean, yeah, I could sit in a park and meditate all day. Could do that. Just don't feel like doing that because that's just I'm not there yet. Okay, I'm not there yet. Eventually, probably. But yeah, otherwise, if you want to do anything with anybody, it's online.
Yeah, but but the other thing I think that for individuals, for us as individuals, I think a lot of the time is like I think for example with in your example with your interest in meditation, I think a lot of the kind of primary drive that you derive from this meditative practice, I think all of it has comes down to the idea that we want to not just understand more about ourselves, but that in the way of how you think about yourself, your place in the world, and because so many people are so busy in their life and they justify and some of it is rightfully justified that why they're busy, but a lot of the times is people just forgot to think about why they're doing whatever they're doing, you know
Yeah.
to slow down and just be like, okay, well, I have all this work, and I have family, I have this all this kind of ecosystem, but they need to start thinking about, okay, what does that mean for me? What's the meaning of it all, right? The idea of what's the not just value in terms of like number or whatever, but the idea that is this important to me, or is this why I'm doing this stuff I'm doing, right? And certainly the
Yeah,
meditative process give you that. Um, uh, it's just what's people missing these days, you know? They're so busy in their life because basically their script when they wake up, it's like waking up, make money. That's it, right? For
yeah,
most
yeah.
people, that's what it comes down to.
And yeah, and whatever systems and relationships they're involved with. There's a lot of inertia that I realized in life like that. This is why, I mean, I'm not sure if it's the side effect of meditation or the it's originally what caused me to meditate, to go into meditation, but I I don't want to have that many, relationships and engagements and responsibilities because I know I'll be completely swept up by then. I'd be just there. I'd be just doing those things without any opportunity to have an input into their, you won't have a say. Like if you have a specific job, like there are rules and regulations that you have to abide by. But those rules and
Yeah,
regulations are present everywhere. If you're in any society, any club, any hobby event, it's more and more kind of restrictions that it's like rails, right? It's rails that you're going to be going on. So, and to me, it almost seems like I feel like my creativity is being taken away there, even though obviously you can be creative in all of these avenues. But to me, it somehow feels like, well, now I got to do this thing. It feels like I have to do this thing now.
right.
Oh, I am, uh, and it's very strange. Maybe it's some kind of cognitive bias on my part, but meditation to me was it's both like a self care practice, right? Self just stabilization, mental wellness, etc. But also to me, the end. It's the end of uh, this searching because as you started earlier by describing that this changing world, it produces anxiety. It's all you're engaged in this external world without having the opportunity to pause and self-reflect, etc. To me, where I arrived with meditation is that that's where I can just have peace. Because the same anxiety that you feel when you're trying to comprehend all this complex world, you're not going to solve it by thinking
Yeah,
or designing or planning for it. It's too complex. It's infinite as far as we're concerned.
yeah,
You're not gonna be able to predict what's going to happen tomorrow.
yeah.
Not on the stock markets, not anywhere.
No, just like currently well, to anybody who's watching, my occupation is mover. It's the most basic job, blue collar job. You just drive a truck out there, somebody need to move their stuff, some have so much stuff, you know. But every day is different for me. I don't know my schedule ahead of time. Sometimes it's like the day before, right? They call me now. It's like, hey, you're available to do this? I'm like, okay, I'm free, I can do it. Right. So it's like you every single day. I don't know what I will see out there, with the traffic jam or whatnot, and then with the location. Is it more difficult? Is it easier? There's so many different things that can happen. And there's things that always go wrong too, right? And
Yeah,
when it's, oh, elevator's out, good luck, It's things like that. And it's just in the world, it's just so, this is what kind of, by doing this job, it teaches me to be okay with the unknown because I don't
yeah.
know.
Just go with the
You
flow.
know, the truck can just be. I have times where a truck breaks down. I wasn't expecting that,
Yeah,
and it cost me thousands of dollars to fix it. And it's like, well, too
I know
bad,
that's the thing.
you
Yeah,
know, and that will be a thing. You have to find solutions. So that teaches me to like, don't complain. Whatever obstacle you do find in life, you fix it, right? You find a solution. Don't complain about anything because it doesn't matter, because it doesn't make any difference. If you complain, if you feel like, oh, this has happened, now I'm screwed. Now I have to do this. Now I have to pay this money to do. Just don't worry about it, because you need to fix the problem right now, right? Face the problem that you have and then get it over with instead of having this mental, because the thing is, things like anxiety or these things, they're imaginary, right? Like your brain
yeah,
make this picture be like, oh shit, I need to be worried because
It's a
this could
story,
happen,
yeah.
that could
It's a
happen. It's a
story that
story you tell yourself.
the mind
So
compulsively creates. I like this definition of suffering also, is that it's resistance to what is. And it's, I don't know, it's such a big habit that all of us have, um, that, yeah, that in itself, just meditating on that could be a great practice and peace bringing kind of solution. Because if you just remember it, like, oh, yeah, why am I resisting this? Like, something's always going to be happening. The thing's going to be breaking down. It's just how things are in this world. So essentially, you got to get with the program like quicker. Like, you can't be like every time like, no,
yeah,
it's just going to be happening. So whatever, you know, why should you have to freak out and react to it every time? At some point, I think everybody has to face that. Yeah, I'm tired of that. I'm tired of just like reacting to stuff and it making me
yeah,
happy. I think a lot of people, I mean, it's pretty commonly known at this point that a lot of people enter kind of spirituality and even get enlightened just because of suffering. Eckhart Tolle, that was his story. He was experienced such an immense amount of suffering that at some point he just like popped out the other side. He was like, "All right, yeah, that's way
screw
too
that.
much. Like, I'm done with that.
I'm
Like,
done.
that's,
I'm
yeah.
done with that.
At some point, you got
Yeah,
to be done because, yeah, there's no point to it. Like, there's nobody's making you do it too. It's very strange. It's like we're expecting the world to be what, uh, complete, like serve
a certain
us.
way. Yeah,
Yeah,
a
like
certain way.
we're, yeah, it can be because there are too many of us. It can't be a certain way for everybody. Our our
Yeah,
ideas about it will clash. So it's just gonna be some way, and you're gonna have to get used to that. That's good enough. It's just gonna be some way.
yeah. And then that's the problem too, right? With the we're just making the complexity even more complex because of be, between local individuals in a local area, then you have a bigger region of more people interacting, and then you have countries, right? So then you have rules and laws and things and that, like,
Yeah,
each individual country wants something, you know? So it's people versus people as a sort of like as a group identity. That's one
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
And then there's a whole bunch of different, so, like people can define themselves in so many ways, and this is what makes people go. I think, this is why like, a lot of people loves horror stories, or like in a cosmic horror, for example, is because they love the idea. It's both scary, but it's also true that we are afraid of what we don't know, right?
right.
And there are certain things that they're so out of our comprehension. That's what cosmic horror is, right? So there's so many times like we basically can go mad if we think a certain thought to the extreme extent,
Yeah,
right? So,
I've
and
had
there's
those
so many
such
things.
experiences as well, where it's just like I start thinking about a thing, and then I realize like, oh, this is kind of too
Yeah,
scary to think about because there could be all kinds of stuff out there you don't necessarily want to know about.
yeah.
Uh,
Especially, now, like, I don't want to go into politics, but for example, imagine if you're a supporter of Trump, right? You read all the stuff that he says.
oh
You're
yeah, you're
you're in that
embroiled in
camp,
this
right?
whole.
So the way that you think is always that camp, and some of these people cannot even comprehend. Now I'm saying both parties, okay? In this
Yeah,
term is both, not just the people who support Trump and those who also the people who are against him. They're always reading their own propaganda, even, right?
yeah,
They're
yeah,
so drinking the Kool-Aid that
exactly.
they believe a certain story, and that means that it might not be true, but they think it's true because it's a narrative,
Yeah,
you know?
to me,
So,
that's the biggest kind of the best example of how a lot of information is just unhelpful, but it's dangerous, and if you do get lost drinking the Kool-Aid, you're completely lost. Like you completely lost track of what reality even is. Because
Hmm.
when you are in those in that environment, that's your world. If you're reading this stuff constantly, if you're thinking it's so important, oh, what is it gonna do to me? Oh, they did that. And now that's just your whole world. That's the only thing you think about. And you literally live in your world. But that world doesn't exist anywhere but in your mind that you just created. But
Yeah.
there is a way to be out of it. And this is where like some people may argue against it because like, well, no, you should be active, you should be only always involved. Not really, not necessarily. There are all kinds of lives out there. There are all kinds of people living all kinds of ways. You are just one person. And to, according to my opinion, if you're able to live a peaceful life, that's more contribution to the world than most people are able to provide,
Yeah.
your
I,
own
I
peace.
think, I think that the thing is with individuals, kind of everything that we do resonates to other people, because
Yeah,
anything you do, there's a reaction, right? Every action, there's a reaction. So I think if we carry ourselves in the most typical way that people say, like, oh, be an upstanding citizen. I mean, in a similar manner, like if you just go about your day in your world, being more mindful of not just what you do and of what other people, right? That in itself will generate a positive feedback, and everybody will be doing better. Instead of
yeah.
just being fearful or transferring that anger or
It's to
whatever. And this
focus
is
on the
what
right things. This is why, like, to me, politics is such a big no-no that it's just, it seems completely counterproductive to me to be embroiled in it. Because if that's what you're concentrating on, you definitely don't have peace. You have to start with the right things.
right.
Uh, if you're obsessed with something that just essentially you're not equipped to deal with it. It's the idea is that you got to sort out your own house first, right? Like if you don't have your stuff figured out and you're being, I don't know, activist or in politics, you don't know anything. You don't
It's
have,
disingenuine.
yeah, you don't have an idea of how even to make one household in order. Forget about the country or anybody else. You don't have a frame of reference or tools or anything. You need to figure out your stuff first. If you are a happy, balanced, and peaceful person, I think that's got to be the priority, And that's not achieved by demanding the president do something. President has nothing to do with you. You can really that's my life. Like I've been living my life uh, completely unaffected by any presidents ever. Can you imagine that? At no point have I
Well,
thought, oh, this president, he's the one who messed up this whole thing for me. No point in my life, dude. Never even entertained the idea because everybody's doing some stuff. I don't know. I don't know how do you know what affects what?
mm,
I'm not. It's all imaginary. It's just you assigning the blame. Like, oh, I'm gonna decide that this is the cause for my unhappiness. It's kind of like a victim mentality. It's not. I don't
yeah.
find it helpful.
I mean, I suppose one could say that everything affects everything else. So
Yeah,
not to say that there is no effect, but the effect is so you cannot find the source, right? You cannot blame this one
exactly.
person's decision to be like, oh, that's the entire like all
Yeah,
my life is shit only because he did something.
yeah.
It's not like that. I mean,
It's
no,
it's really interesting. Like it's like finding the root cause of the problem, especially in politics, is essentially impossible because
you can't.
first of all, everybody's going to be covering their butts. That's
Yeah.
just the human nature. But I've just seen it at work. Something we would have to do like root cause analysis, and there are ways to do it. But one of them, the simplest one, is that you ask why 5 times, right? Five. So it's five because it's not one, because one is not deep enough. If you ask, why did the thing go down? Oh, it's the person forgot to do it. Right, but why did he forget? Because you see that he didn't just forget because out of nothing. There's got to be a reason. Oh, he
But then,
forgot because he was overwhelmed with work. There was too much on his plate. Why did he have too much work on his plate? Why did his manager not figure that out and prevent this? And this is how you get to the actual, more or less deep enough root cause where you are able to fix systematic problems. But it requires that deep, deep, deep analysis. And also, it points out that there's always the next why. There's always something happen that
yeah,
caused this to happen. Who's at fault? Who is the first guy who messed it up? You know, goes back all the way back to Adam and Eve, bro.
yeah. If you want to make full accountability, then yeah,
Yeah,
it goes
yeah.
a long
Let's
way,
make
right?
full root cause analysis is needed here.
Yeah. Which is why, I mean, of course, we can't speak for anybody but ourselves, but like, it's exactly, at least for me, like, I'm all about the calm and peaceful life, Like, I don't know why anybody would even get worked up over anything, and that's just me. But apparently, I couldn't comprehend like how you would not realize that you live a miserable life because you make it so. There's so many problems that it's not other people's fault. It's not other people making you miserable. It's you
Right.
yourself, right?
Yeah.
What you comprehend, how you think your life is going, or how you justify things, and how you, uh, and the stuff that you worry about, right? It's like I don't think worry it doesn't make any difference, right? Even if there's a legitimate concern, it still does not matter that you worry because it still doesn't solve anything, right? It's actual actions that solves actual issue. If you have a problem, you fix it. Otherwise, worrying about it is not gonna, you know, do anything at all.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of some patterns that people learned and also some emotional trauma. But what I'm really curious about is that how in some people, I mean, in all kinds of people, it's so rooted that it just doesn't result. Like it keeps repeating again, and it's the same cycle, type of things. Like I was like, how do you not notice? Because at some point, like if you just keep burning your hand on the stove, you got to be able to like, oh, all right, yeah, so you got to get rid of the stove. It's just, or not put it there. But in so many things, we just don't notice it. We don't see it, you know? Uh, that's where kind of mindfulness is supposed to come in. But that's where like my current curiosity lies. Like, how do you always be on top of it? How do you always detect what's happening? Because for some reason, we're just not able to. Um,
I think that, in my understanding, I think the culprit is emotion, you know,
hmm,
because a lot of the times, I would even say that we are emotional at all times because
yeah.
there's an underlying emotional. You can see that we have this kind of a baseline, right? We all have a baseline emotional state,
Hmm.
we could just it can be very subtle too. Like you can't just be like, I'm not sad, but I'm like kind of bummed out, right? Just a little bit. And sometimes it's like I'm not happy, but like I'm pretty mirthful, right? It could be just
uh,
that different level. So at all
yeah.
times we have that. So, but the problem is when there's this kind of extreme level of emotion, like you get angry or whatever,
Mhm,
because I can recall that because things don't happen the way you want, and everybody want it the way that they want it. And when
mhm.
it doesn't happen, your mind automatically gets frustrated. And
Yeah.
I'm guilty of that too. And but the thing is, afterward, I always realize, oh, I shouldn't have done that, or I was
Right.
being grumpy, or I was being angry, or whatever. But
Oh
then
yeah, yeah. There's always
if I
like
recall
residuation.
that duration, I'm like, I felt like it was really hard to control myself at that moment. It's like,
Right.
it's really hard because I'm having that emotion right then and
Yeah,
there.
it's like it's just happening and you're not like it's just happening. You're
Yeah,
not in
and there's
control of it.
times when at the back of my head, I realize, okay, you're being angry, you shouldn't be doing that, but then you feel compelled to carry it through, because
Because you
somehow it
already,
feels good.
yeah.
Somehow it feels good to be like want to have that
Oh
outburst
yes,
or something
it's
like
like
that,
an
you know?
energetic outing. You know, I noticed that the nature of my emotions changed within the last couple of years, um, as I've been kind of like, ramping up my meditation practices. It's not that they went away anything. There were a couple of times where I got very angry in the moment, but it was so short, like it was still intense, but it was very short, and there was no like aftertaste of the emotion. That was the big change because before I would be feeling kind of like a really bad feeling, like oh no, I was terrible. But all of a sudden now that type of angry emotion, it felt like okay, it was warranted in that situation, and then I feel like it went out and then it's gone. There's no
Mm.
residuals in it. It's very strange. Like it was such a big change that I noticed that it's out and it's gone, and I don't even think about it. Like I don't care. It's so interesting because before I would feel bad. It would be lingering. It would be in the relationship, and I kind of learned that it's some kind of part of me that it's learning to express this anger correctly because it's just another emotion. It still has a place in the world, in life, in situations. It's just kind of like different. It's animals still, fighting for their bit of the territory of their situation, but you can't overdo it. Like it has to be done. There's some kind of balance to it that you feel it. And I started feeling that, like I started feeling these emotions that they're lighter this way, even though they can happen. But I feel like I'm more confidently feeling and expressing them. It's whereas before, I don't know, maybe I was afraid of expressing them or I was bottling them up more. Um, but I feel like emotions gotta flow. Like you can't even bottle it up, right? Everybody
It's
knows
always
that,
going to
like,
be there.
yeah,
But
psychologically you can't bottle it up. Like it's recommended against because it's always gonna erupt.
I think, what I think what's beneficial for most people is that we can all use some basically the meditative state, right? The idea that you're being
Yeah,
mindful of the fact that you are angry right now, right? Just
yeah,
that act alone,
will
you
calm you
probably just
down.
you'll
Yeah,
calm you down. It's like, oh yeah, I see what I'm doing right now, right? As
exactly.
opposed to be in it where you don't realize you're doing it. So
If you're kind of advanced in this and if you kind of learn this skill, you would literally see anger rising and then it's just going away and it just doesn't concern you. Literally. It will all happen kind of in your mental state somewhere, but it's so inconsequential because it has nothing to do with you, with your peace that you are just maintaining. That's what I am kind of going for because it's just the way to get there. You have to get used to just doing that. You have to prioritize it. You have to prioritize paying attention to this important thing of peace, being like, I got to maintain the baseline of peace. You have to find a way to
yeah.
do it because it's not as simple as just like, I'm going to be peaceful. It's not just that. It's like, you got to figure out a way to stick with it because I believe uh, that's the most frequent kind of advice that I heard from meditation teachers. Like you even stay with a breath, or people even recommend just sticking with repeating a mantra inside your head, like continuously. The point is that you are going to be, your attention and concentration will be stable that way, and you won't let anything else interfere with it. Easier said than done because obviously that's like, but imagine concentrating on one thing at
Mm.
all times. It, in like mechanically, it makes sense, right? Because if all you're concentrating on is like your calm, peaceful state that you are achieved, but then you concentrate on maintaining it, there's nothing else that's going to be interfering with you. It's just going to be that. Uh, but that's a high, lofty goal. because as soon as something comes in, it's like, oh, no, it's gone. Your attention is snatched away. You're gone. It's so strange.
Right.
But that's the default state. That's the default training. It
I
doesn't have
I
to be like
feel
that at all.
I think that, if we just see our lives if we analyze it in a pure kind of biologically, I would say, where your entire mind, it's just an input out almost like just an input output machine where it's like it's
Right.
constantly reading these information and is interpreting them basically. So it's sort of like you have your information that's stored, your memory, right? And for example, why would you get angry? Maybe there are certain things that always is like a trigger, right? But you already stored that trigger in your head. So every time that happens, well, you automatically go there, right?
Mm.
So it's like the cache, right? The cache that you save for the web browser, for example, right? It's an
Hmm.
information cookies or whatever. It's the information that are kind of stored so that it's useful. You can just
Yeah.
extract it whenever you need it, as opposed to having to record it and re-record it every time. So the mind is like a computer, like it's constantly reading these informations and then having that reaction based on what's been stored there before. So the problem, I guess, is that one could say that we're trying to control, we're trying to temper our emotions our whole life. As a kid, kids have temper tantrums, right? They're the sheer, um, they have the sheer range of emotion that they have is crazy. Like as adults, we don't experience that anymore,
Yeah, right.
but as you
As their
grow up,
primary language.
right? But your entire life is finding out, okay, what's the limit of my emotions? What's the limit
Right.
of, because you see how well you're raised or how well you adapt to your life later on in life as adult. It really depends on during your childhood how how your emotional states are being tempered.
Mm.
Because a lot of times, I suppose a bad parenting, for example, is just basically do whatever that the kid wants. In that way, the kid
Yeah.
never learn boundaries.
They
They
never
never
learn it.
learn what's my emotional boundaries. They don't hit the wall. And therefore they think I am the world. I can do whatever the hell I want, right? Because nothing is stopping me. See, as a kid, that's your level is just expand forever, right?
That's true. Mm.
But as adults, you start seeing other forces that basically give you
Yeah.
pushbacks, and then you found out, oh shit, I
There are
don't have
boundaries
this,
here.
I don't have that, and therefore we start having these issues if you don't think about it. For example, I mean, hell, in my 20s, man, I have no clue who I am, you know? And I don't think we have a
Most
clue
people don't.
ever. I don't
Yeah.
think we have a clue ever, but especially in my 20s, I have no clue what the hell I'm doing, right? And there's always this something pull you this way, something pull you that way. You start comparing yourself to other people. You start feeling
Yeah, just like a
sad because you
leaf
don't have
in the
this,
wind.
you don't have that. Yeah, it's so I mean, we are all leaves in the wind, but do you realize that you are? See, that's the question. A lot of people they don't realize that,
Oh
you
man,
know?
I'm so kind of glad of kind of getting older, and just mature from that
Yeah,
because I
yeah,
finally I finally have that perspective on like,
yeah,
things that have been happening and how clueless I
yeah.
was,
Right.
because there's just so many things that until they happen to you, you can't even imagine, because that's just how the world is. The world shows you how it is.
Yeah,
And you're like,
exactly.
oh, that's possible. Oh, there are people out there trying to scam you every day.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that's the case. At some point, you don't know that until somebody scams you, and you're like, oh, that's what's going on around here.
Well,
Okay.
you see, a person's life can be divided you can divide the life in many different ways, but one of the way that you divide it is when did you lose your innocence? And I'm not saying,
Right.
I'm not talking about the sexual part, is your mind, your
Yeah. Yeah.
innocence of mind. When did you lose that, right? There is a moment when
Which
you
is what
got robbed
exactly?
or you got screwed by other people somehow,
Yeah.
some way. You
It's such a
realize,
big
oh,
disappointment.
everybody's
Like, oh,
disappointed,
this is
man.
the
That's
kind of
just how it
place we're
is.
in.
Yeah, like because as a kid, we're growing up carefree, right? It's basically every kid don't think about none of the problems because yeah,
No,
well,
yeah.
your parents take care of you. You have, basically that's the best time in your life. You can
Carefree
just do
magic world,
whatever.
yeah.
But then there will be a point when that stops, because
Yeah.
everybody had to grow the hell up. Because at one point you're like, oh, this is the actual world. And how do
Yeah.
you, I think it's crucial too, how you react to that. Because I think for myself, I think one of my issues is kind of, I guess I never got adjusted. Uh, like my worldview, maybe I can describe this as I'm being sulky about it. Like I lost my I lost my world, right? The idea that I have a certain way of thinking
Yeah.
about the world, and now I lost that because there are other
Wouldn't that be
assholes out
nice
there,
if that was,
you
yeah, if
know?
that wasn't the case? Would be nice, but for some
But
reason it's not like, why isn't it like that? Can we not do better?
right,
Apparently not.
but I think for me, for some reason, I think it still happens a bit, even though I do realize it's happening. But like in back of my head, I have this kind of like it's really this kind of negative, uh kind of like this small negative ball of energies is always telling me like, yeah, the world sucks, man. The world sucks. You know, it's it's kind of like very cynical and very kind of like just like like a pouting kid, like, I didn't get to get what I wanted.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. That's maybe that's just part of my immaturity. I think
It's some
I
kind of
think a
part.
person
Yeah.
I think every person is fighting their immaturity their whole life. You can live your whole life, but you still probably
Right.
can't claim that you're completely mature. And we can be mature about certain things to a
Yeah.
certain degree, but there are also certain things that you will always carry with yourself from your childhood that it's very hard to get rid of or very hard to change it, right? And this is why everybody have mental illness. Really, I mean, everybody does. There's something wrong
Yeah.
with
Some kind of misadjustment
but
where you're
but
just
again, it also depends on how you define that. Because I think that yes, everybody have mental illness, but then also, who are
spectrum.
you to say? Who make the criteria? You cannot make like besides okay, maybe there are certain patterns that we see, like a person who with schizophrenia, for example. Okay, they their behavior can be quantified because they have a certain type of reaction, right?
Yeah.
But
They're
even then,
extreme cases.
but even then, there are a lot of things that we still don't understand about ourselves in
Yeah. No, even
psychology. In
about schizophrenia, nobody knows what this is.
why?
Nobody
Why is it
knows
that way?
not only
Why is it
why, but
happening in that sense?
what is it like? Um, I've been in those spiritual forums online. I often see people which literally are saying, I have schizophrenia and this, and this. And it made me realize that not only, like, essentially, they see when they engage with the spiritual world, their whole experience to them is like they don't know that's their reality. So to them, it's just a valid spiritual experience. And
Mm.
it very well may be. You wouldn't know anything about it until you experience it. I've even heard of, I think there was some doctor, somebody who was talking about the latest generation, the Gen Z. He was treating one young girl who came to him because she had hallucinations. And she was like, I guess I have them. And he noted that her attitude to it was so novel that the new generations that seen mental illness differently, essentially. He, as a professional, noticed it because she
Huh.
said, I am a painter. They help me paint. And he gives me something so they don't go away completely, but so they're just quieter. So she
Huh.
essentially is considering it as part of her normal experience, that her life is okay like that. So to her, it's not a mental illness. It's just a situation that she also found a way to benefit from because it helps her pain. Who's
That's
to say then,
interesting.
right? Who's to say what's normal for who in that case?
Right.
Very interesting.
That is interesting way to define it because I think even our vocabulary are outdated, right? Because we
Yeah.
are of a certain age, we learn the things in a certain
Right.
way,
Right.
and
Right.
it's true. But yeah, I mean, I do realize that even just having a word to define things like mental illness is very not precise, right? The
Yeah.
idea that we're just
That's always
describing,
constantly devolving too.
yeah,
It's
because it's like the example you're saying, well, who to define it? Yeah. What do you mean?
right.
This is a certain thing that happens to me, right? That person is reporting, but yeah, it's just a thing, right? Like there's almost like okay, the only way you can say whether it is positive or negative if it affects your life
Yeah. If
too much of a
they're
certain too much,
detrimental effects.
then it can be defined as negative. But otherwise, it's just a thing that happens in the world. Just as you can even say, okay, cancer is a natural thing, right? It happens naturally. Yes, it's not good for the person who had them, but that's just you can describe the natural world in that way, right? Like it's
Yeah.
just the processes that happens.
It could be very well some kind of self-regulation mechanism that just happens on a scale that individual people are not aware of. It's kind of um, like a reproduction rate of society is tied to its environment. So that if environment can't support a certain amount of population, there's stuff starts happening on a societal level, which naturally reduces the size of the population
Well, yes,
without nobody necessarily being aware of it. We discovered it at some point that that's the case. So
it's
who
happening
knows
now.
who knows what is at work,
Like now we're realizing it, right? All over the world, all over, like everybody is realizing, well, I can't get a lot of people the first line that people realize is the financial aspect of it, right? Oh, I can't
Yeah.
have kids anymore because it's too expensive, right? So that's the economy part of it. But also, I think it's true. It's the macro environment, right? Um, the economy is a large part of it because everybody is so plugged in this economy, right? But it's also the social dynamics as well, and this is happening all over the world. Not just the West. Is in the East is the same thing. So it's true. The environment, like they had the experiment, right? I think it was the experiment with rats. They built this like rat utopia, and but it's so crammed, right? It's so crammed
Right.
that these rats start just like starve themselves to death because they don't want any more of this, right? This is like I don't care if you give us food all the time. It's like they checked out, right?
Yeah, I remember reading
So
that studies and just the effects they were so crazy that even some of the effects that they listed there, like I realized I saw them in myself and I was like,
mm,
oh, snap, you know, which is a sign that we could be living in a society experiencing a similar problem right now. Um, it's very strange to think about because you're affected by it whether you like it or not, like at that point, because you don't you don't really choose what society you're in or how things are run in there. Even if you move to other countries, people still have the same problems everywhere. It's the same stuff. We all live in a
yeah,
physical world that needs resources, and everybody has certain amount of skills and energy to work with.
it's also basically it's mental hygiene. I think I think a lot of the things are only because this is just my opinion. I think that in terms of sheer space, you can't even say that we're overpopulated as Earth in terms
Right.
of the
Not
sheer
in terms
number
of,
of spaces
yeah,
there
there's
is,
plenty of space, plenty of
but
food
is
too.
more of like the mental aspect of it, right? Or how the system can be,
Matter of system, yeah. The systems are not equitable. They're not as efficient and effective as they can be. They're not fair.
yeah,
It's all it's it's really gotta be, I guess, shaken up a bit more before it can stabilize in some kind of homogeneous system on this planet, because right now it's still too many different
Because
pockets of such
yeah,
diverse like inequality, and just completely unorganized, I guess, that it causes, yeah, a
it's
lot of
almost like if you think
strange
about it,
effects.
the problem is almost very simple. It's true. Like basically, the problem is like we can't really, as humanity, like humans can't regulate their greed. You know,
Yeah, yeah, that's the core of
I mean,
the
it's true for all of us, right? But the
one of the
problem
three
is like
main poisons.
so but it's almost funny to see that we have. I mean, it's a almost dark humor, but like how we can't figure it out, even though we know exactly what the solution is, right? If each individual do not go to the extent that they do with in terms of their greed, then the system will still be functional. But the problem is the more each individual is greedy, then you create a problem where it's unsustainable, right? It's because that
Yeah,
basically the pure selfishness of a certain not individual and a group and what have you is it's like make the whole system so imbalanced that it's just going to fall apart. There's just no
yeah,
two, so it's basically 1 + 1 = 2. Well, we know what the problem is, but then we can't deal with it because the whoever is in the has the interest in keeping it that way, they don't want their benefit to go away, right? So they
yeah,
continue to perpetuate the system. But the problem is, well, obviously it's not going to last. What something is
yeah.
going to
It's not
happen.
sustainable. It's very uh, not sustainable in all kinds of ways. But
Like
what this made me think about is that this is why it's important for society to curate its values, because
yes.
if 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 this greed is
Mm.
not checked by values and a culture, then you can't. Nobody's gonna put their ceiling. Oh yeah, that's enough. Nobody's able to do that. That's literally the bane of every human existence. Yeah, this is enough. Nobody knows what's enough. This is I think I heard it from a Taoist uh, wisdom that, yeah, one of the biggest skills and kind of valuable abilities in the world is knowing when to stop.
Yeah,
Dude, if you
exactly.
know when to stop, you're
Mm.
good. But if you don't think about it, you're not gonna do it. Like, oh, this thing is tasty. I really like it. Ah, I want more. How do you know when to stop? If you're not looking for that level when to stop, you're not gonna. And another example about the culture is that, yeah, if you have a society who explicitly watches that, hey, like take a religion or whatever, right? Hey, let's not be greedy. Let's watch out for our neighbors first. If you really have that as a value, you're gonna have a better and more harmonious society than, say, a society where I don't know, predatory capitalism is the religion, where everybody's just doing it, and that's the norm. It's just, and who would want to live in that society? Um, it's just not the right things are at the forefront of everybody's attention and priority. If your priority is to make sure that just your fellow neighbors, humans, and people you work with and whatever, that they have enough, um, then you're good as a society. Then everybody's just looking out for each other, and that's the priority. Everybody just makes sure that the other person has enough. That's how you have enough.
Yeah, because
It's
our
like a
best,
mesh, right?
it's like I mean, a lot of people really politicize all these concepts. I'm sure when we just say that, a lot of people will be accusing us, oh, you communists, right? But the fact is, some of these ideas is just, you definitely need people to be well off enough for them to be creative, to do things that are, not
Mm.
just better for themselves, but better for society in general, right? But some people, they're so politicized that they would take what we have said here as communism, as like, oh,
Yeah,
you're
I
promoting like everybody share whatever. It's
it's a
not.
good point, but the way I would defend it essentially is that you don't make it into law. We're just talking about culture,
Mm,
which is promoting certain behaviors and values by your own behavior and values. And if it reaches a critical point where the whole of society sees like, oh, we can live like this, this person is just looking out for me. They were like, they just gave me this thing for free because they wanted me to like to have a good day. When more people realize like, oh, we can just do that, and that's like feels great, and everybody's happy, and everybody becomes happy. Just if that happens on enough a level scale, that's good. It doesn't mean that government needs to like control it and necessitate it and do it through law, but it does make a difference. What kind of culture, what kind of stuff is in the culture in terms of art, songs, human behavior. It's that's where everything is connected, but it's gotta start somewhere. And uh, if there's enough of it and it influences everything else, I believe a critical point is reached where society is just healthier. I'm just again not sure where's the root
But
cause, right, of not that, of all the opposite evil stuff, of all the greed, the hate, and the lies, I guess.
I just, I know part of my mind is like, this is just my opinion, but I
It is
almost
a
feel
very,
like,
very, I know it's very romantic, immature type of idealistic type of idea, but I keep thinking that it's got to be possible. Sounds possible in principle. It's like it's not that
I,
complex, right?
I don't think it's immature. I think is definitely something that we, you know,
Something to
it's
strive
something,
towards at
it's
least.
basically how it should be,
Yeah.
But the problem, I suppose, is as they, and perhaps maybe technology can solve this
Mm.
eventually. But if you have, but basically in the show Star Trek, they essentially are saying in that society, they have solved the scarcity issue, right? Anything
Yeah,
that you
that could be a
want,
big boon. Yeah, if that's solved,
but
then
that is
that
solved
would
by
really help.
technology, where they have replicators able to replicate, any item,
Yeah,
food,
just
and what
imagine
have you.
that like you don't have to strive for stuff. That would be a different society because like imagine everybody go through the same process. Like, oh yeah, we don't need to do like pretty much anything, right? Yeah, that wouldn't drive your base behaviors to like claw your way up no matter
Yeah,
what, right?
if you,
It definitely would transform society.
I mean,
So go technology.
in that
We
show,
need you.
yeah, it is a
Save us.
utopia in the sense that, yeah, everybody can, they can live, right, with no problem of worrying about food and anything like that. So their whole thing is about what do you want to do, right? Like now that you
Right.
don't have to
Now
worry
you're
about
freed up.
survival, what do you want to do? So they choose different jobs based on, what they like, they base their own affinity for certain things. And obviously, again, this is an utopia. It's fictional right now because we don't have a way, because things are scarce, right? In terms of in the world, in terms of how would you distribute everything,
Yeah, based
right?
on what system?
In an equal manner, right?
Yeah.
In that sense, we're still not there. I mean, we could be more equitable. We definitely can, but we're not doing it, right? And obviously, we're not at the point where every single person can just get what they want. There is supply and demand in that way, and that we're regulated by that in all our lives, right? Supply and demand. You can talk, whether it's housing, whether it's all manners of stuff. It's always the value of it is only judged by how much supply you have versus how much demand. So that's how we base on our lives, and therefore everything is kind of played as a zero sum game
Right.
because it's like if I have more, then I have more, and you have less. I'm, I'm well off, and you're not, and it's really hard to justify when it comes to it. Like if you have this kind of scarcity, you definitely the human behavior changes, right? The human
Yeah.
behavior revert back to the kind of like the gorilla
Yeah.
alpha
Survival
sort of
instincts kick
pyramid. Yeah,
in.
like whoever is the biggest guy has the power, and that type of. But that's just almost psychology 101, right? When the organism detected, okay, this is what's going on, then this is the kind of system they gravitate towards because the
Yeah.
environment does not allow
Competition
it,
ramps up.
right? So if the environment allows it, then naturally, imagine, right? If we have that kind of utopia where, okay, yeah, if I want food, I can have food, then I don't have to worry about that type of thing, then my anxiety goes away. I don't have,
Yeah,
so
you don't think about those things anymore. You think
I
about
can
something else.
focus my mind on what's, what's more important to me, right? But then the culture part is also important because a human being can just indulge themselves as well. Imagine if
Hmm.
that's a society where they don't have the culture of pushing you to be better, then everybody could just
Right.
be addicted to, like, I don't have to worry about survival. I can just fucking eat delicious food, watch TV all day. Like,
Yeah.
that's an option. So it does important. It is very important what culture does. I think is
Yeah, because
because
we don't live in isolation, and that's. But it's still, I'm curious, like what makes some people naturally seek it out. Like some people are more interested in like, all right, how do I make myself better? How do I learn like stuff that is gonna, you know, make life better for me and my other people? But some people are just not interested in that at all. That's also interesting that we have that as a spectrum. Like what determines that?
because you see, but the problem, I think, one thing is that this is why it's very messy. Life is very messy because at one hand there are certain there's a certain need of coercion that we need as human beings,
Right.
because if things don't push us, we just.
Can't have too much freedom.
But at the opposite side, you can have too much freedom, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you can have too much freedom, or you don't have enough.
Yeah.
It's just very, because I almost have this compulsion, almost like, oh, I want AI to lead us. Almost, I want them to figure out what's the best way for human beings
Yeah.
to live their
I
life.
still remember, I think that's the first episode in Futurama where Fry arrives in the future and he gets some device, reads, he's like, all right, you're going to be, your best occupation is pizza delivery. And he's like, yay, I want that. Yeah, I want something that will let me know. It's like, this is what you should have been doing all along. Which is good for you. It's up to your abilities and you're just good at it. But instead, you have to some people never find it.
Yeah,
I'm still kind of there, right? I'm still trying to like, what is it exactly? I haven't
but
found exactly the thing where it's because it has to be in the gold zone essentially. You have to be, I believe, when you're doing the thing that you're supposed to be doing, you would be in the state of flow most of the time, because that's when you just disappear. You don't even notice
mm,
who you just become the process. That's when it's the ideal thing that you should be doing
but
because there's just no friction. There's just the happening, the doing.
but the you know but the tricky part is that, like I said, the life is chaos. But when you don't have the capacity to decide for yourself, then there's the argument, right? Oh, if AI can control everything, then you don't get to make a choice. What's the individual choice here then? Like, do we?
Hmm.
Because certainly some people in that society will feel very trapped. Like, oh, really? You get to define who I am, and that's it? Like, I can't be anything else. I don't have a say in it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there still has to be that balance of freedom has to be there, right?
So
There have to be some options, but it seems like anytime there are options, a lot of people are just destined to take the
the
worst
wrong one.
options, to
Yeah.
pick the worst
Yep.
options and mess up everything for everybody else by doing so. That's the
That's
paradox, right?
this is what happens
The
in
paradox of
modern
free
society.
will.
Yeah. This is why everything is chaotic, right? I mean, it's just there's no way to control any of it, and also there's no. It's like you can't have too much. You can't have too much on either
Yeah.
side of it. So it's do damn if you do and damn if you don't.
There's like
So
an interesting, I think that's got to be like a category of content online at this point. An interesting use of free will. Like, I really like that assessment because, like, yeah, some people choose to do some stuff that just like, what? You're doing what with your time and free will? Just because they can. And
yeah.
there's something about that just, there's got to be some kind of drive or trickster archetype or something that just causes people like, yeah, I just want to do that. That just doesn't make any sense. Is gonna ruin everything, but I really want to do it for some reason.
Yeah. Right? Can be crazy.
Yeah, complexity, AI, um, I don't know, so many problems that you think about them, they're problems. Um, that I don't know how people do it. I don't know how people who are in charge of solving these problems don't just go insane right away because these are just such complex things, and there are people who are like literally working on all these things, right? It's their job, it's their calling, it's their profession, but I can't imagine. Like compared to those people, I feel so silly sometimes. I feel like, oh, like I think I'm just dumb, right? That's what it means because
Oh, oh yeah.
I'm not even attempting at like trying to figure out what's going
Yeah,
on real with real problems in the world.
yeah, the other day I was driving the truck and I passed by this construction site. They're just building this big condo and they have this big crane. I was
Oh
able
yeah.
to see the intricate machinery that is part of
Oh
that
yeah.
crane. I was like, wow, I feel pretty dumb. Somebody created that shit and
Yep.
I don't know how that even works. You know?
Yeah. No, we don't
It's
know how
it's
anything works.
it's crazy
Most individuals don't.
how some people, what they know and what they have done
Oh yeah.
is crazy, you know. But then,
The specialists.
yeah, but see, but that's the thing, right? Like each individual have their own drive to do certain things. But the problem again, and this is why I also had to warn myself not to think in this way, is that certainly everything is too arbitrary, right? I almost can't. I had to stop myself from thinking that way because it's true.
It is, yeah.
That's the problem.
I know what you
Because
mean.
that person can define it that that's their life, okay? But
Yeah.
then there's no there's no right or wrong way.
Yeah, there's
Like
nothing
you
to
define
compare
it
it to
exactly. You
for
define
them.
it that way. I don't define it that way, but okay, you do you, right? So even with the way how where the worlds are going or how things are going are just decided by those who have the power to do so, right?
Yeah.
People like, for example, Elon Musk or, whoever is doing all these um, endeavors,
Yeah,
right?
people who
The
are
the
causing
market
real
makers,
change in the world.
yeah, the market makers, the making waves in these things, and then naturally things kind of go their way in a way
Right.
that they influence the direction of how things are being
So
developed.
then is that what everybody wants? Everybody wants to be able to have the power to shape the world according to their will.
Well, yes, in a most primal way, I suppose. Like when if
Because
this
that's
is the
kind of what
real,
we want as children, right? We want things
yeah,
according to our, I want it that
yeah.
way.
I wanted
I
that.
want it
I want
now.
it. I want it
Yeah,
now.
and I want it like that. I
So
think that's, yeah,
if you
that's one of the
read,
primary
if
drives
you
as well.
read, if you read world history in any country, just pick any country.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh
It's
yeah,
the
we wanted it
same
that way.
thing. It's the same thing over and over. It's like I want to be number one. I want to be the
Yeah,
guy who says this is how things go,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
But if you ask a kid, that's what the kid does, right? Like I want whatever that I want, right?
yeah.
I want it now. I want it, immediately. And but we found out, oh, the world doesn't cater to us. But some people be like, you know what? No, I want to be able to dictate
Yeah, you can
how things
really
are.
try and extend your world into the world, and some people succeeded more than others for sure.
But
But
think about it. Like every single country has a leader, right?
yeah,
Now, whether or not that person controls that country, it's another question. But nominally, we always have a world leader, right? Like a
yeah,
guy who is on top, the number one guy for this country, right? The president, the whatever. So there's that structure. And if nobody's if you are not doing it, somebody else is doing it, right?
right.
So they naturally goes to fill that vacuum, and this has been true for thousands of years, and they never
Yeah.
change. Nobody had ever said, "Oh, you know what? We don't want nothing. We don't want any of it. We just want to be whatever." No, there's always going to be that pyramid, right? Somebody
Yeah.
always doing
I mean,
that.
it's like a node, right? Even if you take the smallest units, if you take a tribe, there's a tribe chief. If you take a family unit, there is a leader in the family.
Yeah.
It's
And
it's
and,
interesting that there's
and you
always a
see,
leader at the top of a structure.
but you see, but that's the thing, a human society, like that's how we is the best that we got in a way. Because think about it, if what's the most efficient organization is the military, right? They have such a structure that things are
Yeah,
being carried
it's a
out.
unifying structure because if you don't have that unification, then everybody's just pulling in different directions and nothing gets done,
Yeah.
nothing gets accomplished,
So
right?
a tribe survives because it employs specialists and it employ people who are leaders, right? Who are naturally leaders to lead the tribe to a
Yeah, who
better
can keep it
future,
together
right? So
towards
in
moving
that
towards
sense,
something specific.
you can't say that, oh, you can be whoever, or you can't just be like, oh, I can just say whatever I want, or I want to do whatever I want. You can't, because you are living with other people. You have
Yeah, you
your
don't live in
both
a
your
vacuum.
strengths and weaknesses, and you also have to, for the tribe survival, there gotta be a structure. You can't just be like, if I decided to go this way and then the other guy says go the other way. Well, somebody got to make that decision, right? It
Right.
can't
It
just be
has
everybody
to,
just have a word saying, my right to say this, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean,
I've encountered a good amount of that at work, with managing projects to the
yeah,
point where, because often, especially if you work with different teams or with a client, there's no established kind of power structure. You have to create it. You have to create it through a relationship with people.
yeah,
Because some people will think, well, I have the right to say, to drive the decision in this case, but that's not a given. You have to establish what gives you that right. Some
yeah,
customers think they have that right because they're a customer, but their decision would be so dumb that you can't. So sometimes as a project manager, I had to like essentially convince people like you
you
shouldn't be the
can't do
one
that.
making this decision. Yeah, it's gonna ruin everything. And it's so strange because nobody wants to hear that, of course, right? Because everybody's like, no, I can only trust myself. I know the best. But no, not in all situations, not in all contexts. And sometimes would get so frustrated that I realize like the whole problem that we're experiencing in the project right now is because we don't have a decision maker established. A decision maker who is not going to be, no, they do make the decision and we're done and we move on. Sometimes people would be milling around like, no, let's do it this way and do it back that way because people were, it's like
Right.
a struggle of egos, right? Like, no, we're going
Yeah.
to be my way. And I'm like, can we just make somebody decision maker because we need to move on? And it's the strangest thing. Sometimes it's like it's not even possible because nobody wants to budge. Nobody
Yeah.
wants like, yeah, you make the decision. It's so strange. Like I'm still not sure how to navigate that because how do you peacefully come up come up to that?
I don't
Somebody will have to acquiesce. They will have to like, okay, you be that way. Somebody will have to make space,
I don't think you can peacefully do that. Like, for
right?
example, take the example of China, right? They can do so much because the government says so.
Yeah.
Because they have a structure that controls the, the entire society. Because otherwise, yeah, if you just have like, oh, I object. If a single person's objection can stop an entire project,
Yeah.
then
You'll
there's
never get
that.
anything
You
done.
never get
No.
anything done because they can always, oh, I veto. Just
Yeah.
because I don't like you, I will veto it, right? Then it's, well, so, this is the crazy part, now that China is just getting crazier and crazier in terms of their development, because they're like, it's because the thing is
It's
exponential.
streamlined.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah, everything is, they're building the base structure. Now they already built that, so everything else just happening like this, right?
Yeah.
Before it's like this, but now it's like going like this
And
way because,
so, yeah, cumulative effect is kind of making everything streamlined as well.
yeah,
So
which is, it's crazy. Then, well, okay, is that a good thing or bad thing? I mean, certainly for,
time always, all empires fall essentially. Like that's the paradox is that
yeah,
no matter how good, it's like one of my favorite mm, sayings or koans or wisdoms that I heard within the last couple of years is all things always are becoming otherwise. It just blew my
Mhm.
mind because it's like it's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true because you build in, I don't know, the best empire you can always, it's gonna grow to a certain level where
Where it
it can
falls.
be
Yeah.
it can be what it is because it's too much. If something happens, something gets imbalanced, it's impossible
To
for
keep
a
the structure
thing.
as
Yeah,
is that big. Yeah.
that's just not how anything works. That's not
Yeah.
how biology works. That's not how environments work. It's always changing. It's always morphing, and all structures always dissolve. And that's the. I mean, China. If anybody could do it, China could do it because they have the track record. They have the best record out of all the living civilizations for
But
doing that.
but
So
it was still not continuously, right? Like it will still fall. Eventually, it will still fall and rise again. That's the basically the,
that's
you can
just the
never have
cycle.
like, yeah, it's a cycle. It might be as a different entity, right? Like,
Yeah,
sure, you can say, basically China lasted thousands of years, yes, as a people, as a culture, but that culture changed so much.
yeah.
Dynasty
It's still
come
an
and goes,
evolving thing.
right? But eventually it's something other than what it was, right? So that will always be true. So, but the thing is, people keep thinking, oh, it's not me, not me. I'm going to maintain this. Like, that's what everybody thinks.
Yeah.
But it's
And
not.
then sometimes it lasts with certain people, right? Sometimes there are rulers and dynasties who have been able to hold it together. But when they're gone, the change sweeps away. The people who are there, mighty as they were, amazing as they were, they're just not there anymore, and there's nobody to replace them
Yeah.
to maintain their legacy. That's just how it works.
So I just think, as people, we obviously we're capable of a lot of things, but
Yeah,
one of the biggest thing for the person is to realize basically, what are you doing anything for? Basically. So you gotta have basically a mission statement, right? You gotta figure out
I
what your
agree.
mission statement is.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have that, it's going to be a much more conscious, mindful life. If you don't.
Yeah, because I think there's too many cases of just people not knowing what they want. Like, yes, they're achieving things there, but is that really what they want to do, or is that purely, there's so many cases of just like, yeah, it's kind of sad to see that, okay, this person is clearly brilliant, but their life is falling apart because they didn't figure out exactly why they're doing it all for, and then they realize, oh, yeah, I should have done that. I should have did this and that, instead of what
Also,
they
it is strange that there are so many brilliant people throughout history that are just they were not successful in their lifetime. It's
right.
so strange. Like they were miserable, they were sick, they were not famous, they were just poor. It doesn't make any sense. And yet they were literally brilliant. They were some of the brightest minds that produced, you know, stuff that we inherited that we still use these days as a basis of thought and science and art. It's even that part seems so strangely unfair that it's like you can't ever have your cake and eat it too, right? It's
No,
just it's
but you
something
see,
you gotta
like
give.
the problem again, we goes back to we're as a people, as individuals, we're too anxious about our own success, and I think that kind of get in your way because you keep worrying about, oh, I want to achieve this, I want to achieve that, and it's not happening, and it's giving you anxiety, right? It's giving you like, oh, I haven't been there, I want to be here, I want to be this, and that's happening every single day. And by myself, for example, too. Everybody is human. We can only be so much. And then there's certain times when you're gonna fall into that pattern and be like, oh yeah, okay, I don't have this, I don't have that. But then I keep reminding myself, well, all that like basically is all about your life experience. How you're experiencing every single day of your life. That's the most important. Not just like, oh,
Yes.
what I potentially gonna get. It doesn't matter how much money you're gonna make in 10 years. It's not. It does not affect you in the way of how are you gonna live your life today,
Yeah,
right?
essentially, you can't sacrifice the present moment for a potentiality sometime in the future because, I mean, that's a lot of what a lot of spirituality concentrates on is that there is only the present moment, which means
Mm.
you gotta live that well because everything else doesn't really exist. What you might or might not have in the
Yeah,
future, you could be planning for it, but maybe on a very high strategic level and on a very practical and limited level. But in terms of your everyday life, yeah, you got to prioritize being in harmony and balance and peace in the present moment right now because it's never going to happen anywhere else. It's only
yeah.
now.
Especially, you see, this is the problem that a lot of people who actually do achieve fame, for example, or you know, level of success is that they couldn't deal with the level of pressure that that kind of comes with that, right? It is legitimately very hard to deal with the things that do happen, in terms of other people's opinion, other people's like they have demand of you, they have this, and you have all these forces that kind of like pushing you to a certain direction because obviously some forces are seeing, okay, they see you as a commodity, right? Once you get, say, famous, for example,
Right.
they see that they can use you to
There's
get more
always
money.
vultures.
Exactly. So, sometimes like the wealth and whatever, it kind of blinds the person.
Yeah, no,
How,
it's like golden cuffs, right? It always wealth attracts problems. You're
yeah,
not gonna have less problems. I've heard even like rich people like point that out
more
specifically because
problems.
now you're gonna have problems dealing like maintaining that wealth, saving that
Yeah,
wealth, protecting that wealth. But also, yeah, like other people with interests of in wealth or in your utility will be now you are now on the radar. So
yeah,
there's always a counterbalance to anything you can gain. You think money is going to make your life better. There's been plenty of people who realized in their own experience that that's very much not the case.
yeah.
That's why it's best to learn on the mistakes of
I
others.
e exactly. It's like this is how I try to kind of see my life. Like, let's just say if I do do well in the future, I still will try to live my life as if I don't have that,
That's
you
the
know?
secret to success, to a
Because
successful life. You
because like
can't take it, you can't take anything seriously. You can't take money seriously. You can't think that, oh, this is the thing. No, the thing is this. It's right now. It's what you
yeah,
have right now. This precious moment and this precious life. That's all you can ever get. This is the best thing. You already have it. You just need to
yeah.
not forget about it. Then you'll be fine.
Like I for all intents and purposes, like I like my life right now, you know?
Exactly.
Being a
As long
storage
as you do
room.
that, you're
I mean,
successful.
I feel great,
You figure it out. You're
It's no
done, dude.
problem. My life has no. I have way less problem than I do before because the nature of my job is just go there, get it done, get paid. That's it, right? So
It's
I
yeah, it's
don't.
unproblematic in that way because
For me,
you
that's
yeah,
how I want to live my life, right? Now, of course, I'm not saying, oh, I'll be doing this forever, but I do want other things I wanted to do. But like, for time being, this is how I'm gonna get to where I want to be. So it's all about. Because, of course, when you ask oneself, what do you want for yourself? It's a very hard question to answer because how
yeah.
would you know? How would
This
you
is
know?
no, this
You
is
know?
exactly the problem I've had for as long as I remember. Like, yeah, how do you even determine what you should want? It's it's been tripping me up forever. It's a very I don't know how people know what they want. It's so strange. Like I meet uh, people, who are so confident. Like, this is what I want. Really? Like, why? Like, how do you determine that?
They
Do you
just like
just?
it. They just like that so much that they just want to do that.
But how does that happen? Like, why do you think that that's the thing? You know? because sometimes it's just so completely baseless. Sometimes it's like a projection type of thing. It's almost like people construct or put up this or maybe illusion or condition where like if that's the thing I'm gonna get, I'm gonna be happy. It's like a
Mm.
little, little game that we play
Right.
unconsciously. But I don't know. I'm always I'm very careful with just even wanting things. That's part of my meditation. Like I'm trying to like see who is wanting what and what results it produces. Like what these desires lead to. Do they lead to happiness? Do they lead to fulfillment? Because most of the time, no. You
No.
think you want this, you get it, and you're like, this is terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. For me, it's always a balance, right? Like how I comprehend it, it's like it has to be a balanced way because even with the spiritual path, for example, like you have the story of the Buddha himself figured out, oh, aestheticism is not the way to go. He tried
Right?
it, and then he
He
felt, oh,
tried it. He
no,
had
no, this
to
is not it.
try it out.
So in the sense that you can't really have this extreme notion about extremism, right? In the notion that you want to go extreme because you think that this is the way to go, right? I think that there's a lot of uh, life is chaotic, nature is chaotic. It's too complex for one to decide, oh, this is exactly the way, this is the truth, the life, the whatever, right?
Yeah.
For me, you kind of have to have a balance of both because the it is good to have to want less, but we also know that the ego, for example, it's also what defines your life because it has the way to make definition and so to give you clarity because otherwise if you have everything is arbitrary, everything does not matter, then you don't exist as you are. Like you basically
Right.
lose your mind, right? You're gonna go crazy because you can't define anything, you can't identify as anything at all. Then
Yeah, you won't be able to
because one
exist in
could
the world of forms.
yeah, because one could posit the question of what I am or who I am or whatever forever and ever and ever, and you might not get an answer because if you don't identify with anything at all, then I don't know, right? Because the mind cannot comprehend the fact cannot comprehend that that you can't have no definition, right? Because it needs to cling to the physical form somehow. Now, of course, there are uh, reasonable questions like, is this life all about material or is there something beyond that? Of course, nobody, I mean, at least I couldn't answer that, but we know that at least as far as we are concerned, we do have a physical form, and therefore there are
Yeah,
certain
you gotta deal with
demands and
that.
needs that it, right? So we have to deal with it, right? So, and one could even see that, well, if you have an ego as a operating system, then there must be a reason why it exists in the first place, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm compelled to feel that that there is this, it exists for a reason. Like I'm compelled to think that way. Like that things do exist
I
for a
think so as
reason.
well. Like I've recently been using that a lot when kind of talking to people online and evaluating some of these teachers. That thought has always been at the end of my mind. It's like, well, if it exists, though, gotta be a reason that's there, right?
Mm.
Why we gotta be eliminating stuff that for what reason? Well, why, why would you do that? So yeah, that's something I've been thinking about as well. It's it made me kind of not take things just on their own on face values. Like before, I think I used to like just take a lot of spiritual teachings maybe too literally. I was like, oh, okay, that's the thing you
Mm.
do. But these
And
days, I'm
then
much more kind of
right.
critical about it because you still have to think about all this stuff yourself. You have to
Yes.
vet it. Like, does it make sense? You don't know who wrote any of this stuff. You don't know what people were thinking and what world they lived in when they devised it. Could be nonsense at this point. We're
Because
2025.
everybody life is very different. Like everybody have not even even your physio your physiology. is different, right? Like some people can eat certain foods, some people can't, right?
Yeah.
Your reality is totally just yours, right? I mean, there are similarity that come across because we're all humans. We all share certain similarities, right? So there are those baselines, but you as an individual is unique because you react to the world a certain way, right? So I think it's more about finding yourself in the way of kind of have a more comprehensive understanding of yourself, and that's a lifelong goal, right? It's a
Yeah.
lifelong journey that one has to do, but it's what we need to do, right? Because if you don't define yourself, or if you don't kind of aim your life in a certain way, then you don't, I don't know, you're not going to have a good time, right? And a lot of times, this is what we're trying to figure it out. It's just, how do I define my life? How do I define, what's your worldview, and what's your how, like, and what you're gonna do about that? Because every single day you wake up, you exist, and you have this life, and then you gotta figure out what you're gonna do with it. So, I mean, certainly everybody can think of, oh, I have wasted time, and we all done it, but it's the part of the journey of that realization, like, oh, okay, that's the growth, right? We can even you even can't really say that you wasted that time, because like wasted time, as opposed to what, right?
Yeah.
Are you supposed
That's
to be
been
doing
my
something?
that's been something I've been thinking about a lot, kind of this past 2 months. I had a weird year. I had this transition from job, but as part of it, I was playing a lot of video games, and to the point where I do have a lot of free time. I did have a lot of free time, and I was playing it, and I'm like, and you're still thinking about it. Am I wasting my time, or am I doing exactly what I want and
Mm.
getting exactly what I want? It's such a strange thing because it just it doesn't leave your mind. It's like, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Is who is to decide that?
Yeah,
Do
who's
I just
supposed to do what?
do I just say yes and then just go to nirvana, or like what is it? How does it work? It's so interesting because yeah, it's who's to say? Who's to
So
say? Who are you gonna
so
give this power to?
so you see, because this is how I think about it. I think the best case is that one wants to become a connoisseur of life. Like, when
Oh,
to turn the dial up and turn the dial down. Like, you get to
well, that's
enjoy.
would be proper mastery for sure. I like that.
It is a
Yeah,
mastery. It is a mastery, because think about it. Like, imagine if you're wine, a wino, for example. Like, you're a wine connoisseur. Like, you can taste the difference,
the different
right? Between,
notes. Yeah,
so that
the
takes
range of
knowledge.
things.
That takes
Yeah,
kind of, not just knowledge, experience, and everything, but you get to experience a shade of life that other people are not privy to,
I like that.
because
It's like a form of meta awareness that you'd have to maintain, which just goes back to meditation. But it reminded me
yeah.
of a video game analogy where, hey, if things are too easy, that's not going to be a fun game. Go into settings, get yourself fired from a job, get things more interesting, get things spicy, to see what happens. It's too easy. Is
Extra
that not?
challenge,
Yeah,
extra
that's
challenge.
not good either. But tons of people literally feel it in their life, right? Like, oh, I've been at the same job for 10 years. I feel stagnant. There's a reason that it
Yeah,
happens. And
because
uh,
you should not define yourself by your job. That does not
by
define you.
anything. Yeah.
You know, or yeah,
It kind
it's
of
not
goes
what
back to
you.
the fact that everything changes and that even like you get used to everything. And essentially one of my experiments with the video gaming was to like, okay, I'm just gonna have zero judgment and zero resistance towards me because I've always thought like, well, I should be doing something else, should be more productive, should be making stuff and learning things. Uh, that I experimented with just let it happen, like however much I wanted to game and stuff. That eventually, yeah, it just subsided on its own because everything
Right.
gets old.
Yeah.
Everything gets old. You just naturally wouldn't be able to do the same. I mean, probably some people are able to do the same thing for decades and they're fine, but I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
That's a skill of its own. I mean, that would be cool, I guess, if literally you found something that just makes you content forever and you just keep doing it.
Because
But In
Yeah.
my experience, everything gets old, dude.
Because like I have huge respect for somebody like David Goggins, right? But
Oh yeah.
but but he's that. But the thing is, that way of living is his life, right? He
It
has
is, yes.
reasons to be the way that he is,
He
right?
found a way to be balanced in that type of life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the thing is, not everybody is fit for that. You know, it's not just because, oh,
Most people, I think everybody except David Goggins, is nobody is able to live like that.
yeah, but the thing is, for him, he needed that, right?
That's
He
the yeah,
needed that
that's
because
his cure.
that's his cure. So meaning that, not every cure is for everyone, right? Not
Yeah.
every way
Find
of
your
doing
way.
things is
Find your way.
so again, it's like the connoisseur. You gotta taste the difference, okay, and which one you like better, right?
Mm.
And you gotta know because obviously a connoisseur can know the difference of between not just good and bad, but also what's their favorite, what's their preferred one, and they can tell you why they prefer it. You know, is the ability to tell why. Why do I like this? I can tell you why. They can list all the reasons why. That's mastery, right? If somebody asks you why do you like it, oh, I don't know, I just like it. Then you don't know shit. You don't know nothing about it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
You haven't looked into it deep enough. Um, but it also made me think that to make that sustainable though, the connoisseur would have to keep an open mind
hmm,
because
yeah,
every once in a while they're gonna try the thing from the lowest part of the spectrum.
yeah,
They can't be like, ugh, this is terrible, this makes me suffer. They'd be like, ooh, I'm expanding my palate.
right,
You
yeah,
have to have the
yeah,
right attitude towards every kind of
everything,
experience. That's
yeah,
how it works.
exactly. So you should not have prejudgments. Like
Yeah,
you
or
should not be
post judgments. Like you just have
or
to be, it's like you just have to be detached away from it enough where it's like, okay, that's a sample we're gonna put right here. And you don't let it upset you essentially. You just expand in your palette and
yeah,
let every experience be that. And I think that's the secret to just not going to be upset by things anymore. Because somebody cuts you off in traffic. It's like, ooh, this is good. That's what's going to happen, right? Okay, I see how it is. That's also a possibility. Could be a fully free road with nobody on it. I mean, not anymore. I guess that's not possible anymore. But it used to be the case at some point. Well, don't get attached to that because now you're stuck in traffic.
yeah. Because I think also it's all also about laughing at yourself and what's
Yeah,
happening. It's like don't take
taking
it too
things too
seriously.
seriously is
You know?
absolutely a mistake.
Yeah. Because like why? It's almost like
Why?
why have a bad time when you can have a better time?
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. Oh,
It's
ooh, this is the one. This is a book title right there. Right there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
why
no,
have
no.
a
This
bad
is it.
time when you can have a better time?
Save that one. Write
Uh,
a book about that.
there you go. You see, this is the aspect of talking it out. There's some of
Yeah.
these. I, I mean,
There's
I don't know.
wisdom
I mean,
being born.
it sounds like a no-brainer, but hey,
Right.
if you don't talk about it,
Yeah,
you
when
don't
you
get
if you
to.
don't say it, if you don't revisit these things, and if you don't kind of naturally arrive at them like that, because we're just talking. We're just like,
Yeah,
oh, well, this makes sense, this makes sense, this makes sense, this makes sense. We're not talking uh I mean, somebody else watches, they could probably, pick everything apart, everything that we said
yeah.
with
It's like, oh, this is
complete
idiotic. This is idiotic. This is stupid.
I
This
mean,
is.
most probably. I mean, probably. I
Mm.
would be fun to see how that all of that falls apart. But I don't know. It sounds coherent to me.
Yeah, it's about so having a good time and live your life, and because like you can almost read every single moment of your life. You can feel the energy of it.
Yeah, there's like a
Like from
signature
the
to it.
time you wake up and the state of mind that you are in, thought in your head, the stuff that you gotta do, you gotta think about. the all the daily tasks, and like imagine experiencing that not as you're doing it, but as if you're also sitting on the side of your shoulder as well as you're
Right.
doing it,
This
right?
is going to be a completely different perspective. So true and
Because
so
sometimes
valuable.
that's how I feel, you know? It's like, okay, I'm doing this thing, and I realize I am doing this thing. It's like, interesting. I'm doing this thing, you know? So
It's good. That
it's kind of
means
fun like that, you know?
it
I'm
is.
like, okay, I'm doing this. There's, I wouldn't say I'm a big coffee drinker, but like I drink 1 cup a day. Sometimes I just, gotta grind my own beans. It's like, yeah, this is an experience. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I'm doing it right now. It's kind of it's a fun exercise almost. Like it's
This
just
is how
I'm
I do it.
able to.
This is how you meditate.
It is
You're saying
true.
with
Like I'm
experience
not.
and you're enjoying it.
Yeah, I like, cook my own meals, doing my own things. Like, yeah, this is the act. I'm doing this. This is interesting. It's not like before I would be like, oh, screw this. I hate this. I have to do this. I have to
Yeah.
cut this. I have
Yeah.
to cook this. I have to.
No, you get to do this. That's
Yeah.
the difference, you know?
Yeah. So it's it's about attitude, right? Like what your attitude of towards your life, and and because at this point, for me, I'm like, it's very paradoxical in the way that I care a lot less these days in terms of like whatever happens, and I find myself like this is truly freeing because I have released myself from all the past
Oh,
preoccupations. Like,
yeah.
oh, am I uh did I fumble, or did I do this right? Did I do that right? Did I impress somebody? I no longer
Yeah,
cares about that, which is a huge kind of
completely.
release
Yeah,
of
it's a
pressure.
useless mental activity that you just freed up yourself from.
And only because, well, not maybe not only, but because I see other people doing it. And I
Mm,
feel like I don't want to be like that. I see what they're doing.
right.
They try to impress somebody. They try to do this fake, whatever it is, trying to get some benefit from somebody else. I'm like, look, I
Looks
wear this.
exhausting.
Look, I wear the same clothes every day, go to work. I wash them. Don't get me wrong. I'm not. I'm washing it every day. Okay, like because I gotta keep myself clean. But I wear the same
That's
getup
how simple it
every
is.
single day.
Yeah.
That's how simple my life is. I go work because I need clothes that I can work in. I can't just try to impress somebody and wear it because it gets dusty, it gets dirty, whatever, right? So I don't care what other people look at me like. Oh, you like some I am blue collar. I am. I don't care. And I don't care what anybody think about it. I live my life. I do my thing, and that's it. I never get to, I mean, I never try even now to impress anybody by dressing up or try to say, try to, say some clever words or whatever. I'm like, I'm just me. I'm just doing, what I think is right, and
Yeah.
it's been great because I truly,
Because that's the form of the ultimate form of kind of power, freedom, and happiness because it doesn't depend from anybody. You're done.
yeah,
You're free. That's the real kind of solution is that you free yourself from influence of anything and you're living
like,
that life. It's an
like
achievement in its own.
it's not that I'm completely detached from society. I still engage with society. I still,
Yeah.
I try to do,
But its impact on your happiness is definitely minimized
yeah, because I can
through the
see,
way you're doing it.
because I can see how most of the angst and worry and these negative things are happening only because people are not being truthful um to themselves and to other people, right? They're trying to fake it. They try to create this kind of elaborate setup,
Yeah.
trying to it's disingenuine, and that create this.
Yeah.
It's like
If everybody was truthful, solve a lot of problems.
every lie is built on more lies. So
Yeah.
is a lot of maintenance, for that. If you're just being truthful, like it is what it is, right? You don't have any mental burden by trying, because when you're trying to impress somebody or whatever, then it necessitates that you
Yeah,
fake it,
everything becomes fake.
you know?
You create the whole world, create fake persona, and all of that requires so much energy that very little of it left for, worthwhile pursuits. For sure. Yeah. Lies
So
don't
and
are not worth it.
and I don't know, this conversation is almost like a last refuge, at least for me, to just not that I'm not truthful most of the time in my real life. I am. I'm trying to,
But to
but
talk about so real,
but
right?
to
So real to talk
right, to
about
be
these
like, "Ah,
things.
it's what it is. This is an honest conversation," right? It's whatever
Yeah.
that comes to mind and whatever that we're, discussing, and I'm, you know, telling you how I feel, and, like, this is, the greatest I think everybody should have something like this. Not you just need a friend you can talk to, you know? You need to be
Yeah.
more truthful to each other and to kind of, like, just like, "Hey, life is it is what it is," and you gotta find out what that, what it
Yeah.
entails.
To be able
So
to talk about stuff like this. But I mean, the reason I love it is also because we are able to have these very broad conversations. We're talking about all kinds of things. We're covering a pretty big spectrum that
Right.
usually, like, it's very difficult. Like, I haven't really met people with whom I can talk
Who
with
can
stuff
talk
like that
in that,
because
right?
I like this. I don't I like that we're not confined, but like, oh, I can talk to you only about like computers or something. And
Yeah.
some people are like that. Like they wouldn't even be able to entertain
Yeah.
that line of conversation. I don't know what that's like. Maybe that's like some kind of
I
mind,
mean,
or
it's
we're just well read or something. But it's very cool. Both
I don't
honesty and the breadth of the
it's
conversation.
I mean, I don't find myself like I try to be more well read, but I'm not really well read. It's not like I read so many books and I have so many. No, I can't even remember names or facts or whatever, right? But it's just more like I don't know. It's just kind of it just makes sense to me from my life experiences. I can't even claim I read so many books. I haven't. It's more
Maybe
like
it's we're both because we're both kind of like not particular, not super specialized in any one thing, because some people they dedicate their whole life to, I don't
right
know,
to
say
one
physics or science,
pursuit,
and
right
they're really good at that thing.
at
They're
that.
like
Yeah,
they're profound, they know things that you can't even fathom. But as a result, you can't spend your time on much else. It's also an exchange. Um, yeah, interesting. Um, well, we've passed the 2 hour mark at this point.
whoa.
It's
Didn't feel like
this
that at
is what it
all,
looks
you
like.
know?
Yeah, this is what I'm saying, that when you just get it going, when you have that good convo flowing, time disappears, and you just having a good conversation. So I think this works well, dude. We should just have quality hangs, and
Yeah,
this is what it is.
it is what it is, man. It is sometimes it do be like that.
Sometimes you'll be like that, yeah. So let's hope it's like that uh, every time, because yeah, this is
Every time
good.
will be different, so
Yes, next one is gonna suck.
'cause suck balls.
um, but yeah, we could wrap it up here. Couple
Yeah,
hours.
interesting conversation. So I'm looking forward to the next one in terms of topic and something
Yeah,
interesting
because
to
the
discuss.
conversation is always also gonna evolve, because um, we can't talk about the same things. We're gonna have to move on to some other topics. But it's yeah, I'm looking forward to see how it's gonna unfold because we kind of do talk about similar things often.
Yeah,
So we'll see how that evolves or changes because I'm gonna be watching that. Like I don't want to be talking about the same stuff all over and over again because that would be boring. But yeah, keep it fresh, keep it funny, and don't take anything too seriously. Um,
exactly.
I kind of want to see if we can wrap it up with with a koan,
Mm.
um, because I have a collection of them at this point, and a lot of them are pretty fun. As something to open up the mind till the at the end of the session. The latest one that I have in my collection is this: where does the current moment end and the next one begins?
Whoa, dude, that's a doozy.
That
Hmm.
might be an opener for the next. Maybe that's what we'll do. We'll open the next session with insights
Yeah,
about the previous koan.
that's good. No, that's a good point.
That's an idea
Exactly.
right there.
That's um.
Chew on that one for a couple of weeks, and then we'll talk.
Come on, don't do me like that, man. That's not fair. Oh
Got
no.
him.
Oh no. No, 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 no. That's not good. Oh, that's too deep, man. That's too deep, right?
That's
It's
we go deep on this one on this podcast. We're gonna deep it, we're gonna fry it, and then we're gonna spork it.
uh come on, straight like that, no sauce, no.
No sauce, no nothing. Going in raw. Where does the
Well,
current moment end and the next one begin?